Hi everyone, Curtis here from Goth Rider Creations, and in today's episode we're going to unveil my new project. Stay tuned. So, after the mad rush of the GGBO on my first ever guitar build, now I'm going to move on to something a little bit more familiar to me. Now, don't worry, everyone that's enjoyed the guitar stuff, I am going to continue. I really enjoyed making the Impossible. It was a hell of a lot of fun, using a lot of skills that I already know, combined with some new stuff in a new format. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And if I'm honest, I've actually got quite a few commissions already from people I know who are like, oh, you build guitars, I want one. So yeah, the guitar people, GGBO people, don't worry, I'm going to continue to make guitars, but with cold winter approaching, and yeah, if anyone watches the news, it's going to be cold this year and expensive. I wanted to make sure I had 2 or 3 builds concurrent, so then if it is particularly wet and cold and nasty, then I can do some stuff indoors. If it's just a bit meh, then I can be in here building, well, it's not quite a guitar, but we'll get to that in another episode. I want to be able to do something in here, and what I'm about to show you will probably be the more time consuming part of things, because it is out there. So let's go and have a look at my new project. Right, so here's the glorious outside, and here she is. Now, you might have seen her when I was doing the episode for the spraying of the lacquer on the guitar, and anyone that guessed it was a motorcycle, congratulations, you win. But yes, so without further ado, come on, I'm trying to build suspense, people, don't hate me. Oh. And here we have it. What we have here is a 1981 Honda CB750. I believe it's a K model, but I am not 100% sure. What we have is a 750cc double overhead cam engine, aftermarket chrome crash bars, what I believe is the original bubble door fairing, which I'm not a massive fan on, but apparently worth quite a few pennies. It has original miles of just over 20,000. Everything on it is basically as it left the factory, including the lacquer. But yep, from what I can tell, it's original seat, original absolutely everything. It also has my favourite black Dimag wheels, which I absolutely adore. Apparently you can date it from the tail light, but I'm no expert on that one. And apologies for the mess, I haven't managed to clear anything out yet. Now, it's literally been sat here for pretty much the last year. It does need a little bit of work. All the brake calipers are seized, which is a little bit of a pain, and the battery is stone dead flat, so I haven't even managed to crank her yet. But this is my new project. So the big question is, what am I going to do with it? And yes, obviously I'm going to get it back on the road. I did have some differing plans on it. I did consider doing a crazy build. I've been enjoying a few sort of semi-epic computer games over lockdown, and I did have an idea for maybe a cyberpunk build, doing some crazy stuff from the renderings from the games. I did consider doing a kind of a modern Street Fighter take. It's kind of the British take on the modified motorcycle, but it came down to the basic fact that I am in the UK and the rules over here are actually quite strict. If you live in places like, I believe, Taiwan or Malaysia, if you live in Australia, then you are very well familiar with these kind of rules. Or in Germany, I hear the TÜV. Mighty car mods, I learn what I can from the internet. But yeah, apparently in some countries like ours, the rules are very strict. From what I understand it, in America, you pretty much, other than California with the emissions laws, you build whatever you want. You can just take the body of some rusty old car and stick it on a Corvette and drive it down the road with cable ties if you wanted to. Over here, it's a lot more strict. And there are a lot of rules regarding restoration of classic vehicles. Now, she is 40 years old, 41 years old. So legally she is considered a classic vehicle. Now, as such, if I restore it to the factory period correct restoration, I do not pay any road tax, which is just the British way of getting money out of people for owning vehicles. It also doesn't have to adhere to an MOT, which again might be alien for my American friends. It is literally a yearly test to make sure your vehicle is roadworthy. Different countries have different versions. In the UK, it's not ideal, but it's not the worst I've ever heard of. Basically, you get a mechanic to give it a look over. There's a few little tests they've got to do on the brakes and lights and things like an emissions test. But you can't have any major faults with the vehicle. If there's major rust holes, fail, they take the vehicle off the road. If you've got any warning lights on your dashboard, fail. If your bulbs are blown, fail. If your brakes don't work properly, fail. A lot of things the Americans probably wouldn't care about, over here you've got to be quite careful with. So having a vehicle that doesn't need to adhere to an MOT anymore, it would be lovely. But I can only modify it to the extent that people would have modified it back in 1981. I cannot change it to anything garish. I mean, I think colour I can pretty much get away with what I want as long as it's period correct. So an option that Honda would have allowed back in that day. So Honda Cherry Red would be fine, the metallic blues they used to do would be fine, things like that. But I cannot paint it metallic bright pink, just won't happen. I cannot change the wheels, I cannot change the brakes, I cannot change the engine, I can't change a lot of the vehicle. The only options are bolt-on modifications that were done by Honda back then. So it is very restrictive, but I do want to keep it a classic. Now, I've never done a proper full-on restoration before. It's not my thing. That bike came from my brother, who was an absolute legend, and he sold it to me way less than he should have done, but he needed the space, and he's got his own crazy collection as is. Now, he's the restorer. He will take a vehicle, he's very good at finding little gems at good prices. He's got a real knack for it, he's got a real gift of the gab. But then he will pour a mortgage worth of money into it to get it all dead nut perfect, exactly as it came out of the showroom. Now, that's his thing, and you know, good on you, man. He's done some amazing things. His Mini was beautiful, his CVX 1000 that he's working on is absolutely gorgeous. But it's not my thing. I'm a poor guy from a poor background, from a poor neighborhood. You got what you could cheap, and you kept it working with a piece of string and a rock. If you wanted to improve it, it meant going down to Halfords at the local hardware shop, buying some cheap paint and some fiberglass repair kits, and doing what you can. And that's how I learned vehicles, and I love doing it. I love making it mine. You know, the guitar building people that have been sort of watching the channel, they'll understand that, you know, you build a guitar because you want to make it yours. You don't just want to buy something that someone else has, you know. So I love doing modifications. So this is going to be really hard for me to do a dead spot-on restoration. Now, I'm not going to start with the full-on restoration. We need to get that thing roadworthy. So initially I've ordered a battery which should be coming in the next couple of days. So I'm going to get that fitted, try and start her up and see where we lie. The likelihood is the fuel might need draining out of the tank, probably will need draining out of the tank. I'm going to need to dismantle and clean the carbs because they can be a bit finicky. Anyone that's worked on carburetors will know, little tiny bit of dirt, little bit of gunge, and it just gums up the whole thing. So I'm going to have to strip those down, clean those, get those sorted. I'm going to do a basic cleanup of the brakes. I'm not going to strip them completely apart because I don't want to replace the pistons and I don't want to replace the seals. I can get them, but they are exceptionally expensive for what they are because they're a part that are basically not made anymore, or if they are made, it's from like a couple of specialists in Japan. So, you know, I've looked on eBay, I can get them, and if I need them, I will buy them, but I would like to show you guys some, I wouldn't say dodgy, but more cheap and easy ways of doing some of these get back on the road kind of fixes. From what I can tell, the tyres are okay, but everything else I've not been able to check. We managed to literally wheel it off the trailer, wheel it into the garden, and that was it. So we will explore this together and we'll see how it goes. Once I've got her working and ideally driving and running, then we can look at doing the restorations. I want to do a complete respray. If it was just the lacquer that was damaged, then I would try and painstakingly polish the lacquer out and then recoat it and try and keep the original paint. But the paint itself is chipped down to the metal in a couple of places. The decals are completely mangled, so we're going to have to look at options for that. I have found a person in America that does make reproductions of those decals, but they're worth nearly as much as the bike to buy them. It's insane money. So I might look at doing something at home with that, with a new toy that me and Mrs. Goff Rider purchased recently. But anyway, we'll get to that. So yeah, just a quick little update. I'll be showing you the next project in the next episode, and then ideally, depending on how we're looking throughout the winter, if it's a nice day and it's not too cold, I'll be out working on the bike. If it's a bit then I'll be in here working on something else. And then if it's really awful or it's Christmas Day, then I'll be in there. I'm only joking, my love. I'm only joking. I promise. But yeah, if it's really bad, I'll be in the house doing, I don't know, something else. I'll show you how I do my video editing. I don't know. But yeah, so that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining me, if there's any of you there. Hi. He's not building a guitar. We're off. Bye. But yeah, so thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. Please let me know what you think of her. And I'll see you all on the next one. Take care.